to go. 3, 2, 1, and action. Ta-da! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk number 253, recording today live on Wednesday, the 1st of February. Be available on all good pod feeds shortly. In fact, I am supposed to be putting this on SoundCloud. I met with the SoundCloud people at NAMM, and they said, yeah, we'll give you a pro account, we'll get you set up, we'll import all your old things. I'm just waiting for that to all work out. So that means everything will be served from SoundCloud in the future. That's the idea. So that might be kind of fun and might be better. I don't know yet. I'm hoping so, because I really like their commenting system and everything. So anyway, we'll say welcome to those in the chat room. We've got a bit of a nice fulsome chat room. Nice to see you all here. Obviously, this is the first week after the day after NAMM, as it were. So I'm going to hit my my Skype button and say hello to my Skypeys there. Skype last week, for some reason, just didn't work at all. We couldn't do any group video, and this week it's just not very good quality. So that's a bit disappointing, but we are actually moving. If I switch to my camera here, you'll see that there's quite a lot less stuff in the room, and it's all in a state of disarray, where I am starting to dismantle it so that we can move on Friday to a new premises, which will have a BT Infinity capable broadband line, which apparently will give us, I don't know, about 10 times what we've got now. So I'm hoping that that will improve everything. Just that will be the answer to all my prayers, and everything will be all right after that. Anyway, I'm going to start with you, Rich, because we missed you last week, and it's very nice to see you. Rich Hilton, of course, Hiltonius.com, producer, engineer, player, works in the private facility of Mr. Nile Rodgers, on the road quite regularly with Chic, the travelling disco outfit, who everybody knows. How are you, Rich? You well?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Excellent. So, well, that's good then. I'll go straight to something else. Nice to have you aboard, even in your 8-bit format that everybody's saying in the chat room. Your video's a bit 8-bit. But we can just pretend that we're streaming off a CD-ROM for in like the old days, just for fun. As Gaz, also, Gaz Williams there from songsurgeon.co.uk, producer, engineer, and song surgeon. In fact, if I give... There we go. There's his lower third. No, that's Dave's. What am I doing? Gaz Williams there, songsurgeon.co.uk. Also co-host of Sonic Touch, the show which we hopefully will be shooting episode 8 with tomorrow, our music and iPad and iOS. Though tomorrow we've actually got an Android app for the first time. Ta-da! Anyway, Gaz, how are you? You are static. You're. Oh. I'd say if Rich was 8-bit, you're probably 4-bit at the moment.
Oh. Okay.
And not moving at all. But that's okay. I'm sure we can get around it. Anyway, how are you, Gaz? You well?
Well, I've got another cold, so I hope that I'm not going to give you that tomorrow.
I've still got mine. It's all right.
Oh. Well, maybe I can pick up a nice fresh one from you then.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe I can refresh my own cold.
Do you remember a few weeks back we were talking about ribbon mics, and I'm currently talking on a ribbon mic now, but I did a really interesting recording session at the weekend, recording my surf band, and we recorded it just using ribbon mics, only ribbon mics for the whole, everyone playing live, and then just, and the sound is superb. I mean, it's funny because just on the mixes, kept it all resoundingly mono. It's a real kind of old school approach to the recordings, but listen to the mixes in a few different places, and wow, it's like the drums, everything just sounds so groovy. It's amazing.
Did you use anything else to sort of glue it together, sort of processing-wise, compression-wise?
Yeah, I used Alloy on all the tracks and just kind of hit the limiters quite hard, and then sort of doused it in some ozone tape saturation in the exciter module on that.
Right, okay.
But other than that, we recorded it in a very big room, which is a lovely standing room in Chew Valley, south of Bristol. And it was just, for me, it was just so exciting. And we did we mic'd the drums from about maybe 2 meters maybe in front of the drums. And, actually, we did use a valve mic as well, which we put together with with another ribbon mic, so we just used a little bit of that just to give a little bit of brightness in the cymbals, but we phase locked it and got that. But that was in the same location as well, this distance away from the drums. And everything was distant, a little bit more distant than we would normally mic things. And I think the reason why I was mentioning that, it was just a very old school approach to recording, but listening back to the recording is so satisfying. Everything's just so upfront, and I like the drums, like, because it's kind of surfy stuff. There's all these kind of big tom rolls and all that kind of stuff, and it's just all really, really nice and juicy, and, so, yeah, like a real kind of retro sort of recording, but very satisfying.
Excellent. Let's also say hello to, let me see, we'll say hello to Dave Spears. We haven't seen Dave Spears for a little while. Well, it's been since, I haven't seen you since before NAMM. How are you, Dave?
Yeah.
Excellent. That good?
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, mate. Your video is more like 12-bit, I'd say. You're doing very well there.
I look like a Cyberman.
Yeah, you do, don't you? You've got that. You just need to spray your face silver.
I'll do that by the end of the show.
Yeah, just nip out and I don't know. Maybe the wife's got some silver makeup from a Panto or something for the kids. I'm coasting here. I felt confident going into that sentence, and now I'm lost. Anyway, so Dave Spears, of course, G4 Software, makers of fine software instruments, probably making fine software instruments as I speak. In fact, we can't see his lower half. I bet his hands and his feet are working on it as we speak. Would that be true?
Maybe one.
Okay, fantastic.
1 hand and 1 foot.
1 hand and 1 foot. Haven't quite. Well, you're a drummer. You should be able to do both independently. You should do one instrument. You should be working on 2 things at the same time, as well as talking to us.
On which subjects? Has anyone seen my tech support thing this morning?
No, what was that?
I posted it on my Facebook. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's utterly amazing, and it's just getting better and better and better. I think somebody's bought something from a completely different company, and it's to do with cars. And he emailed us asking for tech support for his Toyota Camry, and it's making a whistling sound. And Chris replied saying, "Are you a drummer?" That's it. And he came back with another question, like, yeah, but why is it making this whistling sound? And Chris said, it's probably tinnitus from overdoing the drum monitor mix. If you answer it, it'll probably go away. And I feel qualified. We can make those kind of jokes because obviously I'm a drummer. So
excellent. That's a great one. Well, no, that was just something random there. Sorry, Mark. I'll introduce you, Mark, while you speak. Mark Tinley, likebeing.com. Where are you, Mark? If you speak, I can flip to your frame.
I've actually got something in the garage which is for measuring standing quarter times, and it uses magnet, the same kind of technology as the iPhone uses for, when you wiggle the thing around. What's it called?
Geo
thingy, thingy.
That.
But it measures like the G-force of the car when you accelerate. So it must be that company, because I think the company has a very similar name to yours. So,
there are a few other G-forces, and isn't there? Do you ever get any emails from little girls who want to get badges or stickers of hamsters? Because isn't there a film, the G-force? Because I bought that.
Oh yes,
I bought you a DVD of that actually, Dave. I was going to send it to you for Christmas a couple of years ago, but my daughter ended up watching it, and I thought actually it's not that funny, and you might just get it. But it's something you could have on the wall,
Somebody sent me a picture of my head on top of one of those hamsters' sort of bodies, which I used as my iChat logo for a little while.
Excellent. In fact,
and the proportion was quite similar.
Oh, that's hilarious. We did at Christmas. There's also a thing called Elf Yourself, which everybody has to do if you've got kids. And I had to do the children and the guinea pigs, and the guinea pigs look really good as elves, I have to say. But that is completely off topic and totally random. So we've still got to say hello to PJ Tracy. PJ Tracy, Emmy-winning composer. How are you? How's your new studio fit going?
Good day. It's going in fits and starts. We had a hiccup. We've got the wrong Monty card was delivered to us from RME, so we need to switch that out. But I did take delivery of a pair of 2264 compressors, the Neve 500 series, the new Neve 500 series compressors, and oh man, they are gorgeous sounding little boxes. So having fun.
Excellent. That sounds brilliant. I can't wait. I mean, I'm gonna be getting into all of that myself as we're moving on Friday, and the only preparation I've done is actually to take a table apart so so I can get it out the door. And there's a lot more stuff to go besides, so that's going to be kind of fun. But I'm kind of looking forward to it, actually. It's going to be exciting. I think we're going to be in a state of flux for a considerable amount of time while we figure out exactly how
plan on it.
to apportion up the how we plan to apportion up the space. But it's gonna work good anyway. So let's see, where should we start? I mean, obviously NAMM was the week before last. I mean, we didn't, though we talked about some of our sort of favourites and the high points last week. There's still quite a lot of stuff that's been going up. I mean, we can put up other video as well. In fact, one of the first things that was really kind of big news was that Digital Performer has been announced for Windows, which is just one of the most sort of out there things that I can think of for a long time. So here we go. Yeah, Digital Performer is now available for Windows. It's going to be Digital Performer version 8, which is their latest update. It's got a lot of other things besides, and it's going to obviously 64-bit. Let's have a look. DP will operate 34 or 64-bit on Windows 7, I believe. Windows it'll support VST and what's that? RTAS. I can't see what that says. I've made it too small. Hold on, let's see. See if I can get that to work. Let's try. There we go. And Rewire. There we go. That's what I was looking for. There's a load of 50 new plugins, a whole bunch of stuff. But that's a pretty major deal, isn't it? Having a whole new platform announced, and because Digital Performer has long been used. I mean, PJ used to use it a lot, didn't you? And it was used a lot for video cues. It seemed to hold that market for a long time.
I did. A lot of film composers I know use. They tend to seem to go either Digital Performer or Cubase seem to be two big ones, and of course Pro Tools and Logic are used to an extent as well. This is a real generalization, but what's interesting about this is that Motu for a long time have had almost their entire product line supported on the Windows side of things, with the exception of Digital Performer. That was the big omission. They didn't have that, and even going back, as far as a decade ago, they had a program. I'm not sure if they still make it. I think it was called Autodesk, and it was basically like a scaled down version of the audio side of Digital Performer, and that was cross-platform, and yet Digital Performer was not. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, because all of their interfaces are supported on the Windows side, work well on the Windows side. All of their Mach 5 and so forth and all of that are supported. So I think this is maybe a natural extension of their product line to migrate Digital Performer over to Windows side, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people that will be very welcoming of that.
Will you be amongst them? I mean, are you tempted to kind of go back and visit that?
Personally, no, because Digital Performer, for me, it's purely logistical. It's a difficult program to navigate for me because they tend to, and have for years, stuck with these tiny little submenus with almost unreadable fonts that I find
lots
very,
and lots
very
of
difficult.
windows by the looks of things.
Yeah, very, very difficult to navigate that program visually, and
right.
Just to kind of get into it. So I tend to steer clear of it when I was on the Mac platform, and I'm now using both platforms, the Mac and the PC, and so I recently reacquainted myself with Logic on the Mac, and I looked at Digital Performer, but I find that it's still really, really difficult to navigate for me.
One of the other things that they've added is a lot more video support. You can get full 1080 or 720p via playback via second monitor, or via the new Motu HDX and what's the other? The HDMI or SDI, HD Express or HDX SDI. So I mean, it's going to be. I wonder. I mean, what happens with something like this? Is it kind of like the last thing on the to-do list? Because it must have taken an awful lot of time to prepare this. I mean, it's essentially almost like relaunching a sequencer, because we've got a whole new platform to be dealing with. I mean, is that? Do you think there's going to be enough people to make it worth their while? Because presumably, maybe people swatched it. Maybe they lost a lot of people to PC, and then now they can come back. I don't know, Rich. What do you think? Because as far as I can tell, it is very American. It's Digital Performers. Used a lot more in America than perhaps anywhere else.
Well, from a marketing standpoint, certainly I guess they're hoping that there's a huge untapped market out there of PC-based sequencer users. I haven't used Digital Performer in over a decade, so I'm totally unqualified to assess it on any level other than that. I know people I respect enormously who use it and love it. So
Right.
I'm sure that they're hoping that there is a market to be cracked out there in PC world, and we'll find out, won't we?
But what do the people that you know, and what are they using it for? Is it very much kind of single person composition to picture, or is it recording, or what's the kind of general?
Most of them were composition to picture.
Right.
Have been. A few use it as their main sequence recorder, but I don't know too many people who record multi-track, live stuff to digital performer. But I know that it's got to be being done out there. Bless you.
No, it's interesting.
So it's a perfectly viable product. It's one of the best out there, and I'm sure it's workable. And for guys who aren't satisfied with what's in PC now, or who have always wished for this, a lot of performer users who've always wanted to run it in Windows world. I guess that here it is. I'm happy for it.
Dave Spears, does this mean you've got to create a whole new installer, or is it all going to be fine?
Should be fine. Famous last words. God, why am I so confident? Sort of momentary moment of confidence.
It's on record.
Normal service
Would you like me to get
resumed.
it, Dave, so I can test for you?
Yeah. No, I was just really surprised to see it. Yeah, the harbinger of doom. That's what Richard is called in our environment here. No, I was just really surprised to see it. And other than that, I don't really have any comment at all. I like their stuff, although I've got a recollection of sitting on a beach in America on Memorial Day trying to work out how to use Digital Performer for the Mac, because we were doing a Mac show a million years ago, and it was like, we can't really use Logic, can we, on an Atari? And that was probably the last time I used it, but I do use Mac 5 and Ethno Instrument and all of that kind of stuff, so yeah, and I know it's got a real cult following, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
So I don't know whether Dave or Gaz or Mark have any experience with Digital Performer. I mean, I know, as we've said, it takes an awful lot of commitments to swap sequencers or jump. I mean, and I suspect that many people on DP probably going to stick there on Mac anyway. So it'd be interesting to see how it works. But you got any experience with these?
Yeah, sorry, Mark.
Depends who wants to go. Come on.
I'll go then.
Go, Mark. Yes.
When I had that problem with the Mac PowerBook 540C when I switched to the 5300 all those years ago,
right.
and Logic fell over, I started using Digital Performer version 3 or 4 or something, and I learned how to use it because I was cross with eMagic, of course, because they'd provided me with a brilliant product
eMagic.
for years. So I tried it for a bit. And then they brought out something that did looping, didn't they? Because Warren Kukurulu used to use this thing called a Jam Man for his guitar parts.
Right.
And I had that thing running in software, but he didn't like it because he had no control over it, and it relied on him saying, "Right, quick, loop that bit to me."
I see.
And then we could stack all these loops in it. So I found that useful, but I haven't used it since then, really.
Yes, Kiwi Steve in the chat room says, really, to jump to the top, you've got to have an advantage. And what does DP offer that others don't? And that's a good question. Kiwi Steve, hello, I want to say, because I met him in the bar in LA, and it was very nice to meet him. Gaz, you sound like you're about to go there.
Yeah, this is going to be my point, really, that I've always struggled with DP. I've used it on various sessions, not enjoyed it particularly, and I've always wondered what the USP was with it, really. The one thing I quite liked was that you could always you had like a kind of channel list down the left-hand side, and you could select what the mixer was showing by just clicking on the names of the tracks, and I always thought that was quite well implemented. But apart from that, I've never really kind of clicked with it or particularly seen any reason to go to it. So they're keeping their mass format then, are they, as well? For so it won't. Do the plugins have to be in mass, or will it read VSTs?
No,
or AUs?
I think it'll be. On Windows, it'll support VST plugins and rewire. I'm guessing on Mac it must support that. I mean, I can't imagine they've cut themselves out of that. I mean, as far as I remember, they were one of the first, weren't they, to sort of combine audio and MIDI in a kind of in some format, although it was in a slightly a different way than everybody else. It wasn't. But I am now completely guessing because I've never used it. But so perhaps
that's a good question, Nick, because I remember using it, in the mid 1990s as a straight up MIDI sequencer, but I don't remember it actually having audio capability at that point.
Right.
And I want to think that maybe it's possible that Cubase or Vision or something like that prior to Digital Performer actually had that capability.
Maybe I got it the wrong way around. It was one of the last to get audio capabilities rather than one of the first.
It's possible.
I knew it was one or the other.
In terms of, Gaz's question is what's the big deal about it, I think, as Rich kind of attested to, I know one guy that uses Digital Performer as his main DAW for just recording live multi-track audio projects, acoustic ensembles and things like that. But I think that's not the way that I've seen a lot of people use it. Most of the people I know that use it as their main acts are doing sound picture, and it just seems to be one of those sequencers that's sort of adopted the feature set that post producers need and composers need earlier than most of the native DAW systems.
Right.
You needed a lot of money and a lot of hardware to do that kind of thing back in the late 90s and early part of this last decade, and now you can do it all natively. And I think Digital Performer was one of the first to sort of, and they had the hardware to support it.
Right.
Motu had all these great
and still
synchronization boxes.
And still do.
Yeah, all these great synchronization boxes that we used to use. So the AV timepiece and all of these, wonderful boxes that have kind of gone by the wayside. You don't really need them much anymore unless you're doing, massive broadcast stuff. So yeah, it's good. Okay,
well, I think what I'm going to do is I'll just canvass for which story we should go to next, because there's a few here that I want to cut to. I think one of them was the Universal Audio Apollo, which is quite an interesting and big innovation. So should we jump straight to that after the ad, and then I can so I can tease it, because I think to be honest, it's time we said thank you to our sponsors. And with our sponsors, of course, are Yamaha. We want to say thank you very much to them. They are showing us all about the Pocket Track, and the Pocket Track digital recorders are super small, probably the smallest 24-bit 96K PCM recorders, up to 26 hours recordings. XY microphones. The W24 has a wireless remote control, which is extremely handy for live recording, anywhere where you want to put the recorder and perhaps not be in the same position as it. I'm sorry, I've just realised I hadn't had my advertising notes up, so I'm making it up as I go along. So I'll come back to that. Yes, there we go. Pocket Track, ultra handy wireless remote control, high capacity storage, XY configured stereo microphone for superior music recording, peak limiter for music recording, quick startup, which is a big deal. 4.5 seconds. Scene memories for user settings, which is extremely handy as well. Onboard speaker for quick and convenient way to check recordings. The C24 is the smaller of the two. It weighs just 57 grams, which is astonishingly tiny, and it also has an onboard speaker, directly USB connection to the computer. It's got 2 gigs built-in memory, and also takes micro SD cards. And what Yamaha do is just check out. Go to one of the major stores, one of the major dealers, take some memory down, record some audio, have a listen to how it works, and take it home and listen to it. I know that Dave Robinson, who is editor of Pro Sound News, swears by his. I'm guessing he uses it for interviews and that kind of thing. It's really, they are so small, you can fit them in a pocket, hence the word Pocket Track. So once again, we thank Yamaha for the continued sponsorship of the show. Right, so what's next? I think we should do the Universal Audio Apollo, because that really is... I think for me that was I know they did sponsor our NAMM coverage, but I mean they wanted to sponsor it because basically they had such an awesome product. So I'm just going to play this.
Hi, my name is Lev Perry. I'm here at NAMM 2012 with Universal Audio, and the big announcement at the show is Apollo. Apollo is a high-resolution audio interface with real-time U80 processing, and what that means is it's the best-sounding audio interface in its class, and real-time U80 processing allows you to use the entire library of U82-powered plugins on input with less than 2 milliseconds of latency. In addition to that, it's also a U82, so it allows you to run all of our plugins inside the DAW right off of the box. So again, all of the great titles from Manley, Neve, SSL, Studer, the list goes on and on. They can all be run off this box either on input or on the back end for mixing and mastering. In addition to that, it's got a FireWire 800 connection to the computer or a Thunderbolt option card that just slides in. When you connect Thunderbolt, you get PCIe performance out of the box, and the FireWire ports even become a hub, which is really great. The front panel is very intuitive. On the very far left, you've got the mic preamp section, full featured mic preamps with control over gain and all of the various things you'd expect on a mic preamp. Beautiful metering across the front panel.
I won't play the whole thing because obviously that's quite a long video and it goes into some of the finer points. But basically, I can't believe that nobody's done this already. This is the news that the Universal Audio Apollo, which essentially has got the UAD2 platform inside it and allows you to process real time on live inputs with I think it's a 1.1 millisecond analog to analog delay. So I mean negligible basically. And this has been the kind of area that Pro Tools has excelled in for many years. So now this is a kind of this is a slightly different architecture, admittedly, but it's a very interesting concept. And I'm guessing, I know that many of us are UAD users. I know that Rich, you tend to use UAD stuff, and I'm wondering whether or not will this have a use in your setup? Because I'm guessing you probably process after the fact, right?
Oh, it would. It's a very interesting product to me. Does it have a use in my setup? Only because I have a lot of other things that do what this thing does already. But for a user who wants to get into using their plugins and needs a good interface design, this thing is brilliant, I think. And it's also kind of groundbreaking in that I don't recall any other interface product that incorporates plugin hosting into its architecture. Mm. And the plugins happen to be damn good. So yeah. I find it to be a really interesting product offering from them. It makes a ton of sense, and I hope they do well with it.
Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking, actually. I mean, as I was looking more and more of this, I'm thinking for the live sound market, I mean, one of these, I mean, you can run all of that stuff. You've got 18 inputs and 24 outputs. I think you've got, I think there's 8 analog, 8 line inputs. I don't know if it's got ADAT or whatever. Yeah, it's got ADAT channels as well. And obviously you've got the Thunderbolt option. But, I mean, just running that maybe with a laptop, if you can figure out a way to route the stuff internally and externally, I mean, that's going to be great for live work, isn't it? Surely just that real-time processing. I mean, with that sort of latency, you could be running front-of-house monitors as well without, anybody getting too upset about it. I don't know, anybody? Or is Rich?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw it more as a recording device. I see it for live sound. I mean, you could bring one of those little bricks that they make. I can't remember what it's called. A satellite.
Yeah, but the thing about that is the through processing is low latency. So yes, that would work if you've got a big front of house rig and there's a big delay between the stage and the speakers. But I mean, in a smaller venue, something like this, because they don't. I mean, there is a through latency for processing real time inputs on their other platforms. It's just because of the nature.
I don't think it's any. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's any different. Other than the fact that you can do Thunderbolt in this thing.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I've processed real-time stuff. When I did the UAD review, I was, right, what does it sound like on a live input with my voice? And there's definitely a considerable delay on real-time live input. Yes.
The figure that they're publishing or talking about in terms of latency on this thing is sub 2 millisecond latency, but that couldn't possibly take into account the trip through your DAW's buffer, could it? Because that's different depending on, on the architecture of the DAW, as I understand it.
Well, that's a good point. Actually, that is a good point. So maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree there.
So I think when people publish figures like these, they're a little spurious until you get real world practical user reviews and people saying, okay, I'm not experiencing any latency, or the musicians I'm working with aren't experiencing it. In terms of using it as a front of house device, sure. If you're a person that wants to commit, processing to tape, then this is a really, really great way to do it if it does what it purports to do.
I would be interested to know, because it's got a separate hosting, like a mixed control panel, which interfaces with the DAW and then routes the final audio into your DAW. So I'm guessing there must.
Oh, so maybe it's just looping back at the input before it hits the
may be. I would like to know that. Yeah. Mark, you seem keen to come in there.
Well, I watched it and I understood what it was, and it reminds me in a sense of the way that Creamware Pulsar used to work and how that used to interact with my DAW, but not necessarily integrate with it. And I want to know how integratable, that's not a word, is it? How easily it can be integrated. In other words, when I come to save my session, I want to know that when I load my session back, it's going to sound the same. So that's one thing that worries me about laying some of this stuff out to separate units. And then the other thing he was saying about virtual instruments and wiring your virtual instruments back into the system using an ADAT cable, and that sounds like it's not very integrated at all. So I want to know. I think
the processing is separate. So you would output the audio into it, and then it would process that in real time and come back into your system. I wonder what sort of delay.
So how is it going? How's it going to deal with latency issues there then? Because that's going to be all over the place, isn't it? I mean, how's it going to? In Logic now, everything compensates, and the more plugins I throw on, the more it adjusts to latency, and within reason, it's pretty accurate.
I think it depends on where you're monitoring from. If you're monitoring from the interface, and it's post-processing but pre-DAW, so you're coming out of your virtual instrument is coming out of the real-time output, ADAT, coming into the UA, being processed by the plugins, and you're monitoring from the UA as well before it goes back into the DAW. Do you see what I mean? I think I think, as far as I understand it, that may be how it's going to work. It'd be nice if it.
But that means that when I hit the key on my keyboard, the sound's going to come out sometime after I play the key. And as a musician, not just as somebody who records things, but as somebody who records things that they play on keyboards.
Yeah, but I hit the key, I'm going to hear the sound.
Otherwise, my performance is going to be all over.
I know, but the thing is, that's the case now. You're still dealing with the buffer of the DAW, and all this is going to add, from what I read, is 1 millisecond to that.
Okay, it's going to add a millisecond, so the millisecond's completely irrelevant because I've already got like a couple of milliseconds there. So
maybe so.
1.1 millisecond delay, hurrah thing is a bit kind of like, well, hang on a minute.
Well, I think perhaps we're being a bit harsh on UA because UA stuff, playing real time across on UA is primarily the platform has been designed for playback and mix rather than playing in real time. I don't know, Dave, you've got this. There is a delay if you want to put it across a real time like instrument or live input prior to this platform coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
tested it. Honestly, trust me.
Yeah.
I tested it as part of the review. There was a delay. So the unit won't add much latency.
Nick, most definitely. I also have a UA processing card, and in Logic on the Mac, which is the DAW that you're using, right? If I put the 8-core Mac that we have down to 32 samples, strap a UA plugin across a bus, and play a virtual instrument through that UA plugin, there is definitely noticeable latency.
Right. Additional latency.
Right.
Yes, there is.
Okay, that answers that.
And I think it depends on the bus because if you're using it as a FireWire bus or a PCIe card, it's going to depend on how fast the communication is. So I think we got that straight. At least that's good news.
In terms of this being the first interface to be able to record live through plugins or have the plugin hosting integrated, it is most definitely not. My Yamaha MR816 does that, and so does the EMU series of boxes that came out, starting in around 2002.
Well, doesn't it?
Metric Halo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Metric Halo.
Now they may not be the same quality, as the UA stuff.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to diss the thing or completely say that I wouldn't buy one, but I would want to try one out before I bought it. It's not immediately leaping out at me as the interface that I ought to go out and buy. Right. And I do need to buy a new interface at some point, and having watched that video and everything, I sort of thought, yes, okay, 1.1 milliseconds sounds brilliant. But when I got to the bit where he said about the ADAT integration, I sort of thought, hang on a minute, maybe it's not. So I'll have to go and try one. That's the answer.
Gaz, you're a Universal Audio guy, Gaz, aren't you? I mean, I can imagine this being kind of... Oh, your video's back.
I am I'm very interested in it, actually. I mean, it is quite pricey when you look at what it is compared to other devices in terms of ins and outs and whatever, and buying something else and buying a UAD card to go along with it.
Yeah.
But the integrated nature of it does look very nice. Now, what is interesting to me is I really like the design of it, and I think it's quite clever how they've copied the controls off like the 1176 or the LA2A or whatever. They've made the interface kind of hark back to their own designs, which I think is really nice, just as a cosmetic thing. But also, I think it does look like it's got a very nice user interface. I've got like a Motu Traveler, which has been really good, but the controls on it are horrible. I don't know if anyone else uses them, but they're like really fiddly little knobs on the front. And whereas this one's just got like the LA2A style, just 2 knobs on the front there, which I think is quite stylish. I'm interested in the preamps. I'm wondering if they're transimpedance preamps. I couldn't find that out. I use a Universal Audio preamp, which has got transimpedance preamps, which I'm a big fan of. They're very transparent. They've got fantastic headroom and dynamic range and frequency response. They're not to everyone's cup of tea because they are some people describe them as a bit sterile, but I think from reading up on the Apollo, it looks like they've gone for this kind of transparent preamp thing, so you use the UAD, things like the Studer and the various other modelled front-end things. So I think, in a way, this is one of the points which I think we haven't really covered about it, is that, the idea that you can mimic all these different preamps on the way in, which the way the UAD has been on all about in the mix on the way out. So, so I think that's quite interesting that they've integrated that, and I'm very keen to try it. I noticed on the website Universal Audio got another fantastic product, the 4710, which is like it's been out for a couple of years now. I think that's that's just like a preamp, multi-channel preamp with selectable transimpedance or valve preamp stages, and I think that's what I would love, is that combination of those things,
both of
hooked
them
up together.
Well, they start saving up.
I'd love it.
Well, we'll work on making all of our participants in the Sonic Talks, the most highly paid roundtable Sonic discussion chat room chat hosts in the world ever at some point in the future. We'll do our best.
Excellent. That sounds fabulous.
That's a promise. Yeah, that's a promise. I'm not very good at, but one I may not be able to keep. But the Universal Apollo, though, I just think it's kind of it's a very interesting development, and I would be really interested to see how it works on virtual. The other question I wanted to ask was, well, why not just run a virtual instrument on the DSP then? Surely that's going to be a no-brainer, isn't it? That's going to make sense to be able to do that. But that was very I don't know if that's the case. It seemed to be hugely sidestepped by everybody. And they go, no, yes, all you have to do is this. And it's like, no, but why can't you just run it? Because there was talk of running instruments on the UAD platform right at the very beginning. But again, I think the latency disallowed it. But I'm wondering whether that might mean that we could do this. And that would be interesting, because all that power available would be kind of cool, right?
Would they have to be ported?
Okay, but there's another thought there. And why do you have to send a virtual instrument down an ADAT cable? Why can't you just get the Thunderbolt interface to shoot stuff back and forth down it? So why can't you just do it on an insert or something? Why does it have to go down the ADAT cable? I don't understand that.
I couldn't tell you. I'm guessing because the integration of the unit will add the latency, maybe. I don't know. That's a good question. Or, Azio Head says in the chat room, I think the code won't allow it, which is entirely possible. But, computer. So is that the equivalent of computer says no, Dave? Is it?
Yes.
Obviously, that's not verified, so we can't. But lots of questions.
I agree with Mark. That's kind of kludgy. That sort of integration. Especially considering that if they did build a box that has nice converters in it, decent preamps in it, and that kind of thing, then using ADAT as a protocol to be interfacing with what's already in your DAW, ADAT is a notoriously jittery, artifact-ridden protocol, and so I don't understand why they would do that either. But, it remains to be seen.
Well, Matt M in the chat room says ADAT is required to routing to print the effects. Otherwise, it's not needed. But yeah, questions. I think it's fair to say that we have a lot of questions that need answering. But hopefully, we'll be able to get hold of one. I think it's going to be available Q2. What were the prices? It was $19.99 and about $2,500 for the Duo and the Quad, basically. Okay. Who wants to do? What should we do next? Anybody interested in the Buchla story? Because that was quite a big deal, I thought. Or would you rather do Melodyne? I'll leave it to you two chaps. Not you two chaps.
Well, I can play devil's advocate with the Buchla story if you fancy.
Right, I'm going to press the button then. Here we go.
My name is Michael Marins. I'm the president of Buchla Electronic Musical Instruments. We are a new company that has acquired the assets and intellectual properties and the very man himself, Don Buchla of Buchla and Associates, the makers of some of the most extraordinarily powerful synthesizers and electronic musical instruments and interfaces available today. Say hello to the folks, Don.
It's a bit uncomfortable.
There you go. Don has been providing our industry with fabulous instruments for well over 50 years, some of the most innovative user interfaces and technologies and sound creation capabilities that our industry has ever seen. And he is still full of wonderful ideas as Don progresses on in years, after 50 years of providing our industry with this great stuff. He was looking for a way to be able to have his legacy protected and furthered and cemented in our industry, as well as his line of instruments continue to be produced and expanded upon. And so we have formed a company to come in and purchase Buchla & Associates so that we could give Don that support to continue on into the future and hopefully forever cement the Buchla name in the annals of music history.
Right, I'm going to switch that. I think it's fair to say at this point, a lot of people have been saying it looked a bit kind of weird with Don. You know, it made him look like he was just sort of being there for the, FaceTime. But actually, the story is he hates being on camera, absolutely hates it. We talked him into appearing, and that was him just being really uncomfortable, not the guy who bought the company sort of being an arsehole. I just want to point that out, really, because that's really important, and I think it's not fair that impression came across, because that wasn't actually the case at all. But I mean, you could also read into this that it's like, and then they saw what happened with Moog and thought, we'll have some of that please too. I mean, I don't know. It obviously the guy's getting on a bit. I mean, imagine running the company and doing all the day-to-day stuff and all that other stuff, although I'm sure he's got people with him. Probably just gets a bit tiresome, and it'd be great to have some new energy to actually make this work for him. So Dave, you said you wanted to play devil's advocate, so what's your take on this? I mean, it's going to be great, surely.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of time for SM Pro audio people. No, this really just sparked a whole nother conversation that obviously is related to the Buchla thing. And I understand that, Don was a sort of mega pioneer on the West Coast around the same time as Bob was on the East Coast. And I love the whole idea of that San Francisco tape exchange and the whole vibe of that. That's something that we've always kind of had a dream of kind of replicating over here in a kind of weird way. But this conversation came up, this idea came up when we went from that to your video of the, what's the thing called? The 200E Skylab.
Yes, that's a bit unfortunate.
And the question was, has anybody written, and this is no disrespect, this is a question, has anybody heard anything on a Buchla that sounds like anything other than a series of farts and squeaks and bleeps?
I'm sure that, yes, I'm sure. I'm trying to remember the name of the chap. Richard Lanehart, he did quite a lot of stuff on that.
Okay.
And he was, it's on the experimental side of things, but there was still quite a lot of melodic and musical aspects to it. So are you sort of suggesting that it's perhaps the plaything of the person who never finishes anything, who's got lots of money.
And who's got 15 grand. Yeah, and there's also another element to this, which was kind of really interesting, in that you always hear people say, or companies say, oh, this module was inspired by, and that'll be, you know, sequential circuits or Moog or anything like that. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, and this module was inspired by Buchla. So I just thought it was kind of really intriguing in that obviously all the kind of synth guys hold on in great reverence and with complete justification.
Well, maybe, I mean, here's an answer. Maybe he's just been very, very tight on that and just won't let anything out that is inspired by and squeezes it. I mean, I could be completely wrong here. But the other thing I wanted to say really was that obviously Danny Olesh, who's part of SM Pro Audio, is on board on this board, and he is a very, very smart guy. I mean, he's kind of like the guy who runs the company, comes up with a lot of the designs. I mean, he's a very clever bloke, so I'm pretty sure his brain on some of this will end up with a lot of interesting spin-offs. I don't know. I mean, Rich, you used to...
And that's kind of where we were kind of saying that maybe that's where it kind of needs to go, you know, and hopefully that's what they'll bring to it, is kind of to gear it a little bit more to the sort of mainstream and introduce it to some musical elements as opposed to this kind of experimental vibe that most Buchla stuff seems to have.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, Rich, you kind of dealt with a lot of... You worked for a synthesizer dealer for a while. I mean, is Buchla on your synthesizer landscape, or is it just a sort of esoteric kind of device?
Well, both.
Okay.
I mean,
I nailed that.
It hasn't been on my Well, it hasn't been on my landscape in terms of my own personal use of the product, and for the most part, I would say that Dave is not wrong about the blips and bloops school, embracing it more perhaps than the melodic schools of electronic music. But I have seen videos on YouTube of people with elaborate modular rigs who are doing tonal music and employing Buchlas in their compositions. So it's not... I mean, to the same extent that, say, EMS and VCS3 were perhaps more well-known as processors and noise makers than they were specifically as melodic devices, although in some cases people use them both ways. But the Buchla stuff I have heard used in melodic ways, but it's no doubt a favorite with the blip and screech school of electronic music, and always has been.
Interesting. But there must be, other. I again, because it is so expensive and so esoteric, I've never really had a chance to play with it. I mean, the only thing I really know about it is the fact that it's essentially programmable and you can recall it. Isn't that how it works? I mean, and I'm not sure how that works internally. I'm guessing it remembers the patch points and everything, but I'm again on very thin ice here because I've never actually had my hands on one. Because I mean, you don't really get them in the UK for starters, but and in the US they are only afforded by wealthy people.
Well, and it also was very much a West Coast phenomenon. Also, to the same extent that where I was in upstate New York, it was very much Moog country.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right. Okay. Oh, excuse me a minute. Skype has quit unexpectedly. I will just relaunch it. So if you're listening live, I'm terribly sorry about that. Just give me 1 second. Sorry about this. That's 2 bad Skype weeks in 1 month. I wonder if there's something going on here that means that we might have to seek another option. So I'm just waiting while we recall everybody. You'll probably know about this in the live stream.
That was all very strange.
Hello. Yeah, I just quit.
You quit? Oh, is that
I just quit. So if anybody would like to join me in video, we'll we'll hopefully get the show back on the road. But yeah, that was a little bit of an unexpected groovy treat. So just one second.
Richard was talking 1 minute and then he wasn't.
Yeah, well, I didn't like what he was saying, basically. No, that's not true. Everybody's back.
I didn't either.
Okay. We're not back because my... man, Skype refresh. Yeah, I've got to do this all over again. That's a bit annoying. That's kind of rough. So this is going to be fun. We're going to have some live retweaking of the setup as we go. So just give me 1 second now. I'm terribly sorry about this. So I've got to do... how tedious. Now, that is not something that you want to have happen very often, is it? It's because Skype crashed. My switcher doesn't see that it's there anymore, so I've got to... I now have to redo it. So sorry about this if you're listening live, because it's obviously a bit dull. So save. Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to go back to here because I've got to save that.
Here's a challenge for the chat room. Can anyone come up with a track that's got a famous tune that there's a Buchla on? I've got no experience with Buchlas. I don't know. I've never really heard one. I've never seen one. And I don't know any song that...
There's a good one. I know we've got a few people in here. I know we've got a few people in the chat room who, if that knowledge was out there, they would probably know it. So perhaps we can we can get them. Just while I retweak my setup here, I'm terribly...
Famous. I have to underline famous as the...
Well, or known, at least.
Yeah, known, yeah.
I think is a fair question to ask. Right, I'll be with you in a minute, gentlemen. I certainly hope I will, because I don't seem to have any Skype-ness there.
We don't have Dave back yet, do we? Where's Dave?
Dave? Do we not? Okay.
No.
All right, hold on. I'll go get him. Dave. No, Dave is there. You just haven't got him on video, I think. You are there, Dave, aren't you?
Oh.
Refresh. Sorry about this. This is very tedious. All this is going to be different sometime. Right, I'm going to see if I can get that again. So if you be my model for a moment, Gaz, I will come and get your shot in there. Right, done selecting. So yeah, sorry.
He's a model and he's looking good.
Right. So now, where am I now? I'm a bit lost. Where were we? Rich, were you talking at that point? I think we were basically we were trying to find out whether or not there was any kind of classic Buchla recordings, or whether anybody knew of it being used in a more sort of well-known musical way. And it turns out that, really it is quite an experimental device, though that programmable modular is a fairly unique concept. I mean, imagine, I am assuming that what's basically going to happen is they'll probably have to use maybe some of the circuitry but ditch the programmable part. So, we might get smaller modules, more affordable modules that don't include that protocol. So that must be the really costly bit that's going on under the hood, because you've got to basically hardwire every matrix possibility so it can be stored via some microprocessor or relay or something like that. I mean, I don't know. That's the point. Does anybody actually know?
Yeah.
No is the answer.
Don't know.
I'm going to call
Don't know.
No.
But perhaps the best known stuff that was done on Buchla machines was Morton Subotnick's work, his pioneering work. There was something about silver apples on the moon or something. I can't recall the exact title, but and it had both blippy, screechy, and musically, melodic elements.
But I'm guessing that's why they're so expensive, is because of the programmable aspect. I mean,
I'm guessing they're so expensive because he's making them one at a time.
Yeah, maybe so. Right, I seem to. That topic seems to have sort of died just purely for technical reasons, really. So maybe we can come on quickly to, if we quickly go into Melodyne's new features, because I know, Rich, you were quite interested in the version 2, the editor version 2 specifications, and I don't know whether I got there before you'd had a chance to check them out yourself. But I think I have a button I can press that means we can have.
Hi guys, we're here at the NAMM Show 2012. We're at the booth of Music Marketing, and we're presenting Ceremony Melodyne Editor version 2. And the biggest changes in version 2 compared to version 1 of Melodyne Editor are 2 new timing tools that we have here in Melodyne Editor, which is the time handle tool and the attack speed tool. And let me show you quickly what these do. So I'm just playing back what we're doing here.
In the marketplace.
With the time handle tool, I can put markers now into a blob and basically stretch and move inside a blob, which we were not able to do before. Drum
find another one here.
Plug-in.
This is the
so the big difference is if I use a Transient Designer plugin, I basically have to edit everything in one go because the Transient Designer is working all the time. While with our attack handle tool, we can basically do this on very specific drum parts. And this is not only a cool tool to get more percussiveness, but you can obviously also do all kinds of glitch drum effects on drum loops and all this kind of stuff.
Right, we'll stop there. Rich, was it everything you'd hoped it would be and more?
Yeah, well, it's good. I don't know about all that, but it's really good, yeah. I've had it for a couple of months. It works fine.
Ah, okay. I think the thing that looks kind of most interesting was the warp markers. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, it sort of seems like, well, why on earth didn't that happen to begin with? Because I mean, that's the sort of the paradigm that we all know and love, I guess, doesn't it? I mean, it just seems like a great idea.
It is, and you could do that before, but you had to go through a bunch more steps. So it's more elegant in the way they've implemented it now, and it's nice. It works well. I'm very, I tend not to do too much timing work in Melodyne. I tend to do the timing work in the DAW itself. So the timing improvements are welcome and wonderful, and I could see myself using them, but still, it's not primarily what I depend on it to do.
Okay, and I guess you can do that stuff, on group tracks and things in your DAW of choice anyway, assuming you're not using something like.
Yeah, and the exception is if I'm doing, say, background vocal sections using Melodyne Studio, which is still using older technology. They do, according to Stefan, intend to update it, but they haven't done in a long time. And so where I'm doing like grouped background vocals and stuff, where I might do some timing work in Melodyne, I'm not even using their current single track Melodyne 2.0 implementation. Ah, right. Okay.
Gaz, are you a Melodyne guy? I mean, is this something that I quite like the transient stuff? That looks kind of interesting because I got into when I reviewed the UA thing and I was looking at the SPL Transient Designer. I really sort of opened my eyes to what you can do with editing transients and changing. The character of stuff you can change enormously. I'm not sure how much I want to do it that granularly, but I mean, it's great to be able to have that possibility, I suppose.
Is there a way to phase lock that across multiple tracks? I wonder. So if you're editing a multi-mic drum kit,
I don't know actually. That's a good question. I mean, it would be obviously preferred if that was the case.
I am a Melodyne user. Have been since way back, right from the beginning, virtually. Although I've kind of frozen on Create, which is like a kind of older version of it. And I was using it mainly for pitch, sort of correction kind of things. But I never liked it for rhythmical work, and I think partly because of this thing that we're talking about now, that they've got, that you can move things without nudging everything else, the way it was before. It was always, you'd always have to kind of split things, and it was always a long-winded way. So I think that's a real definite, plus point. Regarding the transient editing, I think that does look good. I mean, and I do agree with what he was saying there in the video, that when you do apply something like the SPL Transient Designer, or there's something in Alloy, Isotope Alloy, which has got similar functionality, that is affecting everything.
I suppose you could just do it so you could add more whack to the kick, but not the snare and that kind of stuff, I suppose, can you?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I'd like to get my hands on it, definitely. And Melodyne do have a certain, Ceremony rather, do have a certain secret sauce that they're kind of using. to make things sound very good. So
Right.
I do rate their kind of processing. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'm always a little bit reticent about it because it just sort of seems like, oh great, there's even more micro tweaking that can be, I can get bogged down in. It's interesting because you get that there are those. I can't remember who does that range. I think is it Waves have brought out a range of stuff that's just like a knob that's more and less
One
of
knob.
whatever it is.
Waves.
And I'm wondering whether perhaps that is. I mean, although you can't stamp your own creative sound on it so much because it's just the same knob that everybody else uses. There's an element of me that just thinks, yeah, I don't know if I can be bothered with all of that. Tweaking. I don't know, but that's just because I'm lazy. Dave, I saw you chuckle there. Is this going to make you? Are you going to be tweaking like a tweaker with this, or can you just think, oh, you know what? Maybe I should just get it right the first time.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to get it right the first time. But the truth is, from my perspective, Solemnity, all the guys in Solemnity could fart in a jam jar and I'd probably still buy it. I think it's awesome. Everything they do, I just kind of go, want. Yeah. And I've bought this, but I haven't installed it. There's a project I need to get through first before I start installing other stuff on my computer. And but it will get used, probably overused by me as normal. But
yeah.
It's just one of the things that I have to have.
Right. PJ, I'm guessing that you're possibly... I mean, is this something that you can be bothered with? I mean, I know because you have to work a little harder on the screen than perhaps most of us just because of eyesight considerations. I mean, but is this something that you kind of think, oh, thank goodness, I can now... I mean, the other thing that was cool, actually, was the fact that you can apply all these presets, scales and templates, which may be useful, I suppose. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, you would all laugh watching me work in a studio because I have a 30-inch monitor and my face is plastered right up against it. But that doesn't stop me from diving into every piece of software I get my hands on, and Melodyne included. And what I find is that in the times that I need to use it, it is the very best thing out there, in terms of what it does, in my opinion. And it's great software, and I like some of these new features, especially with the DNA and the scale tuning feature, which wasn't mentioned, and the little transient, the warp markers and the transient designer thing. And one thing I wanted to mention that I think is so cool is the graphical representation of transient shaping in the program is a really, really cool visual representation of what compression actually does to an audio waveform, I think, in real time. So I thought that was really neat implementation of that. But I could see all kinds of really creative uses for a tool like that, and the scale tuning tool. Really, really fun software for sample manipulation and sound design, as well as for doing, bread and butter corrective stuff and creative harmonization and that type of thing. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Solemnity software.
Dave, you've spawned an entire thread on farts and jam jars in the chat room. There's just there's like tons and tons of it. You seem to have. Yeah, so I might have to look for some kind of show title that relates to that particular brown noise. Yes, thank you very much. I don't know, Mark, you like to tweak as well. I mean, surely this is right up your street, no? Mark?
Sorry, am I still here?
Yes, I think you are. I'm just saying you like to tweak. Isn't this kind of going to make your day, or can you see does it need to do something else?
I really like Melodyne. I have an older version of Melodyne and haven't bothered to upgrade it to the DNA one yet. I've got a million ideas of what I could do with it. It's not at the top of my shopping list, but I'd love to have it. Watching that video and just the simple fact that you can click on all these different scales and completely change the feel of a piece of music, I think is utterly brilliant.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
And it does it so seamlessly, and it sounds so good when it's doing it that it's almost impossible to tell that it's done it. So I love it. I think it's brilliant, and everything everyone else said.
Excellent. Right, I wanted to finish. There was a couple of there was the new Behringer digital desk, the X32, which has also come out, which I think maybe we'll to keep for another minute. But I did get an email, which I think maybe we can set a topic which we can ponder on for next week, from Bill from Toronto, Ontario in Canada. Absolutely love the podcast. Wish you could do it daily. Yeah, I'm not sure we'd ever get any work done. Even though all of your panel seems to have a problem with the DX7, he says his is still going with since 1984. Is it true that Bath has statues of pigs all around the city? It used to. Anyway, but from time to time, you quiz the panel regarding what synths and effects and so on they wish they'd held on to. How about a podcast topic regarding the synths that are currently available that they think will be rated highly in the future? So maybe that's something that we can ponder on for next week, unless anybody wants to chip in now. But I think I'm going to probably have to make a dash for it. I've got more packing to do before, and I've got to get the room presentable for Gaz, who's coming over tomorrow. So I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining us this week. It's been great to have the gang back together. Really enjoyed it. I hope the NAMM coverage was good for you all, guys. I know that is it a busy time in America at the moment, or do people go on holiday this time of year? That's the one thing I wanted to ask, because there seems to have been everything's gone quiet. It's like there's been a post-NAMM sort of shutdown. Everybody seems to have just closed everything down, but maybe just me. Maybe they just don't want to see any more of me. It's quite possible. Anyway, I will say thank you very much, Dave Spears, g4software.com. Thank you very much for joining us, Dave. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And thanks for all your insights and tips. And I hope that the work on your numerous instruments has been carried on with your feet and arms out of sight during the show. I also want to say thank you very much to Gaz Williams from Song Surgeon. We'll see Gaz tomorrow, actually, when we do another one of the Sonic Touch shows. Back on track with that. Thank you very much, Gaz, for joining us. And your video is awesome. I can now see the full HD love of your Core i7 17-inch laptop. It's looking good.
Yes, but the light is rapidly fading. So
yes. Oh, well, that's what it is. It was too bright for the camera. It closed down. I will also say thank you very much to Mark Tinley for joining us, likebeing.com. Thank you there, Mark. I can see you there in your kitchen, I'm guessing, with your Skype phone.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I am in my kitchen.
Well, I'm glad you could make it.
We haven't gone back. I can't think of anything to say. We've gone back like 200 episodes.
Yeah, I don't know how to say goodbye. It's just so hard. But anyway, next episode you will see a different background, and it'll probably be a much more echoey room. That's assuming everything goes as it should, because when we're out of here on Friday, that's kind of it. You know, I might be back here, but I've got to get all the computers set up for next Monday so that the broadband is going to come in. But thank you very much, Mark. And we'll also say thank you very much to PJ Tracy from PJ Tracy Music. Where's his word there? It's just there. PJ Tracy Sound. That's right, your new URL. Thank you very much for joining us, PJ. It's been a pleasure.
Nick, thank you. Yeah, it's been great. Wonderful talking with you, and good luck with your move.
Thank you very much. I'll let you know how it goes next week. We'll see. But it'll be, yes, I think a much bigger echoey space. I haven't got a carpet sorted out yet. And also, we'll say thank you to Rich Hilton from Hiltonius.com. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Rich. I hope you've got now off to do more fantastic things in the studio, although your video keeps popping in and out. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I'll switch to your icon at the very least.
Sorry. We're having a little trouble there with the video.
Well, that's all right. It seems to be a common theme in Skype at the moment. I'm not quite sure why that is. Hopefully, all of this, again, will be sorted out for next week, and we won't have any more trouble with Skype because we have masses of bandwidth. That's assuming it all works as it's advertised. But I think we get 14 megabits up and 40 down. So that's quite an improvement over where we are. We'll see. Okay, that was Sonic Talk number 253. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Excellent.
I'm just stopping the live.